I'm a 15-year-old guy, and I've got an older sister who is 20 years old. Recently, she found out she's going to have a baby. In our family, we split our time between our parents who aren't together anymore. I stay with my dad during the weekdays, from Monday morning to Friday afternoon, and then I switch to my mom's house for the weekend, from Friday afternoon to Monday morning. This routine has always worked out fine until this past weekend when something unexpected happened. When I walked into my room at my mom's house, I noticed right away that something was very off. My stuff was scattered everywhere. Things were tossed around like someone didn't care. And to my shock, my bed was gone. In its place, there was a baby crib. Confused and a bit shocked, I asked my mom what was going on. She explained that the crib was for my new niece or nephew, my sister's baby. She then told me that from now on, I would be sleeping in the guest room whenever I came over. That took me by surprise, and I asked her about all my belongings that were thrown around carelessly. Her response was blunt. She said since she paid for most of those things, she could do whatever she wanted with them. This response really bothered me. It felt like my space and my feelings didn't matter at all. Feeling upset and unwelcome, I quickly gathered all my belongings that were strewn across the floor. I packed everything into a suitcase I had bought for myself that usually stays at my mom's house. I felt so unsettled and upset by how everything changed so suddenly and without my consent. I decided I didn't want to stay there under those conditions, so I called my dad to ask if he could come pick me up earlier than planned. Thankfully, he understood and came over right away. When I left with my dad, I felt a mixture of relief and frustration. Shortly after reaching my dad's house, my mom called me, clearly upset. She asked me where I had gone. I told her I moved to dad's place and that I planned to stay there permanently unless I got my room back. She got really angry during the call and yelled at me, accusing me of making her pay more child support because of my decision. To make matters worse, my sister, who is expecting the baby soon, also got involved. She had my phone number and she started calling me nonstop. She demanded that I return to my mom's house so I could babysit her child for free. She wanted this so she could have free time to go out, party, and essentially live her life without having to worry about her baby. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just laughed at the absurdity of her demands, told her off, and blocked her number. Now I'm stuck in this awkward situation where my mom is mad at me because she has to pay more child support, and my sister is upset because she lost her potential free babysitter. I felt pushed out of my room and my home, and it seemed like my feelings and my space were just handed over to someone else without anyone asking me how I felt about it. I decided to stand my ground and stay with my dad, insisting I wouldn't return until my room and my space were given back to me. I know this might seem stubborn, but it felt necessary to make sure my voice was heard in a situation where I felt completely overlooked. Was it wrong for me to react this way? What do you think? Now for the top comments before the update. Not the a-hole. Why can't the baby go in the guest room? Also not your baby. And you are a teen, so you have other obligations. So unless your sister is paying you to babysit or just expecting you to help out once in a while, which does not seem like the case, she wants a built-in free babysitter so the baby doesn't interrupt her life. Not your problem. Also, not your divorce or custody agreement between your parents. So also, not your problem. If none of these people are considering you, and you are old enough to decide where you want to live in the eyes of the court, do what's best for you, and let the adults deal with the decisions they have made and the consequences of them. You are not the a-hole. And truly none of this is your problem in terms of lack of babysitting and change in child support. Not the a-hole at all. Your space was disrespected. Yes, you were only there 2 days out of the week, but it is still your space, and your sister shouldn't become a mother if she plans on going back to her old partying ways after the baby is born. She needs to step up and adult now. I would ask your dad to talk to a lawyer about changing the custody agreement to where it's only day visits, not the whole, like, not even a little bit the a-hole. Was it the most mature thing to do to disappear without notice? Maybe not. But as your mother threw your things onto the floor, dismissed your complaints with a, "I own the place, so screw you," and both were in the mindset that you'd play babysitter for your sister's poor choices in life. I don't really give a fuck about maturity in this case. Also, point of fact for you, you are not responsible for your mother's issues surrounding child support. You are entitled to support from both parents. And if your mother struggles a smidge more because of this, then so be it. Now for the update. Update 1. Things have escalated since my last post, and unfortunately, the situation at my mom's house has not improved. After I decided to stay with my dad permanently, my mom and stepsister have become increasingly hostile. My decision to move sparked a huge argument between us, and things have been tense ever since. My mom has tried to guilt trip me into returning by saying things like, How could you abandon your family like this? And you're being selfish by not helping out with your new niece or nephew. She has become very manipulative, trying to make me feel responsible for the family's struggles since my sister's pregnancy was unexpected. My stepsister, on the other hand, has been outright rude. After I blocked her number, she started sending me messages on social media. She accused me of being a terrible brother and said it was my duty to help her out because we're family. She even had the audacity to say that I should be grateful to be involved in her child's life, implying that babysitting for her was some kind of privilege. The messages didn't stop there. She began posting vague, passive-aggressive status updates, clearly directed at me, about how some people are too immature to understand what family means, and how I would regret not being part of my niece's or nephew's life. It was all very public and very embarrassing. I've tried to remain calm and not respond to any provocations, but it's been tough. My dad has been incredibly supportive throughout all of this, encouraging me to focus on what's best for my mental health and well-being. We've had several discussions about setting boundaries and how important it is to stand up for myself, even if it means distancing myself from my mom and stepsister. Amidst all this chaos, I've also been focusing on my schoolwork and spending time with friends who make me feel supported and valued. It's been a good distraction and has helped me keep my mind off the family drama. To anyone reading this who might be dealing with similar family issues, know that it's okay to choose your own peace and well-being over familial obligations, especially when those obligations come at the cost of your happiness. I'm learning that family isn't just about blood relations, it's also about who stands by you when you need support the most. Thanks to everyone who has sent supportive messages and shared their own stories. It's comforting to know I'm not alone in this, and your encouragement means a lot. I'll keep you updated as things hopefully begin to calm down. Story 2. I've never been a fan of the guy my mom decided to marry. He's super loud, always cracks jokes that aren't funny, and seems to think he's the star of every show. Despite all this, my mom is totally smitten with him and always sides with him, no matter what. Now, my wife and I have hit a rough patch financially. It's been tough. Because of this, we had no choice but to move back in with my mom and her husband temporarily, bringing along our young son. This was supposed to be just a short-term solution until we got back on our feet. With the holidays rolling around, we found ourselves gearing up for a Christmas celebration under the same roof. It was clear from the start that the vibe was going to be a bit tense since my mom's husband has a way of making things uncomfortable, and not everyone was excited about spending the holiday crammed together. Despite the awkwardness, I wanted to make Christmas special, particularly for my wife. She has a big passion for makeup. It's more than just a hobby for her. It's a way she expresses herself and feels confident. Knowing this, I spent a good amount of time picking out some makeup that I knew she would love. I even picked special wrapping paper to make the gifts stand out under the Christmas tree. The night before Christmas, while I was wrapping her gift in our room, my mom's husband barged in without knocking. He saw what I was wrapping and made some offhand joke about it, but left soon after. He knew what the gift looked like. The wrapping, the shape, everything. Christmas morning came, and there was a plan to hold off on opening gifts immediately. My mom wasn't exactly thrilled about all of us being there and wanted some time in the morning to herself, which we tried to respect. So, when it was finally time to start opening presents, my wife and I hung back a bit, just taking it all in. Suddenly, I saw my mom's husband casually pick up the makeup gift I had wrapped for my wife and hand it over to my mom as if it was meant for her. My heart sank. I froze for a second, hoping it was just an innocent mistake. But then my mom opened it, and the look on her face was a mix of confusion and disbelief. She didn't find it funny or appropriate. She just pushed the gift aside, sliding it across the room. Her husband burst out laughing, claiming it was just a joke. He said he wanted to see how she'd react to receiving makeup, knowing full well it wasn't meant for her. My mom managed to laugh, probably to keep the peace, but I could tell she was a bit thrown off too. I was livid. This wasn't just a small prank. It felt like he was making a mockery of the thoughtful gift I had prepared for my wife. Moreover, he made it seem like makeup was a trivial or silly gift, which was so disrespectful given how much it means to my wife. I couldn't hold back. I ended up swearing at him, telling him off for being so inconsiderate and ruining the moment. He brushed me off, laughing, saying I was overreacting, and that the joke was really on my mom, not on me. That didn't make any sense, and it didn't make things any better. I decided right then that I didn't want to be part of any more holiday celebrations if it meant dealing with his nonsense. I retreated to our room and declared I wouldn't come out for the rest of Christmas. However, I did eventually go downstairs to say hi, out of basic courtesy. When they asked why I wasn't joining in, I didn't hold back. I told them straight up about his awful prank and how it showed no respect for us or our belongings. Everyone's reaction was disheartening. They either laughed it off or looked at us like we were the ones being unreasonable. Even my mom came up to our room later, accusing me of being too dramatic and embarrassing everyone. So, that's the full story. It was a really challenging Christmas, and it just felt like my mom's husband had no regard for our feelings or our personal belongings. Now for the top comments, not the a-hole. I hope you're able to leave ASAP. This sounds like a lousy dynamic for all involved. That was incredibly rude of your stepfather, and everyone who is laughing it off is failing to imagine how upsetting that would be if it were them and their gifts, not the a-hole. How dare he be so selfish and ignorant? The gift was for your wife, and if he wanted to play the "what would you do if" game, he should have brought a makeup gift himself. The fact that it was unwrapped by your mom as well is just worse, because it was for your wife. Your mom should take more consideration, but to be honest, I think maybe she called you embarrassing because she's embarrassed for her husband's actions and needs someone to blame, so she doesn't feel that way. Not the whole. He's acting like a child, and mom is co-signing his BS. If they don't want people knowing what an immature person he is, then perhaps he should knock that BS off. Story 3. First things first, I need to be clear that I never think of my wife as dumb, and I'd never call her that. But she did end up saying something that wasn't too smart. Let's set the scene. My mom, who always has my back and can get pretty protective, came over for a quick visit recently. We don't get to see each other much during the holidays, so it was supposed to be a nice catch-up time. We had already opened all our Christmas gifts before she arrived, so the scene at home was relaxed with my kids playing around with their new toys and stuff. While my mom and I were chatting, catching up on family news and whatnot, my wife decided to do a bit of scrolling on social media. She stumbled upon the Instagram page of my boss's wife. There were a bunch of photos posted right in front of their Christmas tree with all kinds of fancy gifts laid out. One thing about my wife is that she sometimes feels pretty envious when she sees stuff like that. My mom knows about this tendency of hers, so it's a bit of a sensitive issue. Seeing those pictures, my wife got really jealous. She started making comments about how it wasn't fair. She even joked, "I should have married him if he wasn't such a jerk," talking about my boss. Then she complained about not getting a luxury gift like a little blue Tiffany's box, even though she works really hard at our company. She pointed out that unlike my boss's wife, we don't have a nanny or extra help at home. I was starting to get frustrated and told her quite bluntly that we just couldn't afford expensive gifts like that right now. She fired back with, "But we work at the same company!" My mom and I exchanged looks, both a bit surprised by her comment. That's when my mom lost her cool and blurted out, "Are you stupid? Do you know what a boss is?" Now, I agree the comment my wife made might have been a bit thoughtless, and she probably could have chosen her words better. But here's the thing. As her husband, I feel it's my job to defend her, especially because my mom can be pretty sharp with her words. And this isn't the first time she's been blunt or even rude to my wife. Feeling like I had to put my foot down, I told my mom that because of her harsh words, our visit was over and she had to leave. This didn't go over well. My mom called me bossy and whipped, and she said that I had wasted her time and she shouldn't have even bothered coming over. She stormed out, really angry. After that, my family started weighing in. They were upset with me, saying that my mom was just trying to stick up for me and that I was overreacting by kicking her out. They thought I should have handled it differently and not escalated the situation. Now I'm stuck in this tricky spot. I'm trying to stand by my wife and show her she has my support, especially when she's feeling down about stuff like not being able to afford fancy gifts. But on the other hand, I've got my family who thinks my mom was just defending me from what seemed like an ungrateful comment. They feel like I should have been more understanding towards my mom's intentions, even if her delivery was way off. It's a big mess, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to navigate these choppy family waters, keeping peace at home with my wife while managing not to alienate my family. It's definitely not easy, and I'm feeling the pressure from both sides. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. I would have said exactly what your mom said in that situation, and given the amount of entitled whining your wife was doing, that was a pretty appropriate comment for the moment. I think telling her to leave was making a big deal out of it. Also, your wife sounds like an exhausting person. I hope she works on her unrealized. Take expectations and jealousy. You're the a-hole. Normally, I would be all for spouses having each other's backs, but in this case, it was your wife who was putting a knife in yours in front of your mother. If your wife wants to set herself against you in a way that blatantly shows she is disloyal, shallow, gold-digging, and unappreciative of you, and frankly, genuinely, stupidly greedy in her thinking, I can hardly blame your mother for what she said. She was actually restrained, considering what she has to work with. Edited to add, I'd also like to point out that asking "are you stupid" is not the same as saying you are stupid. The context of the question was the wife trying to assert that as her husband and his boss work at the same company, they should be able to afford the same things. It's a stupid thing to say on its face. And the question, while not polite, was to get her to think about the ridiculous nature of the assertion she was making. Not just an insult out of nowhere. You're the a-hole. Are you stupid? Your wife basically admitted she's a gold digger and said that she would have rather married your boss if only he wasn't such a jerk. And instead of being angry at her, you kick out your mother for defending you. Your wife needs help for her insane jealousy. And frankly, I don't know why you put up with her. If my partner decided to start jealous BS drama on Christmas over how my boss bought his wife better gifts than what I got her, I'd be pissed. And this whole, they work at the same company. BS is downright idiotic. I'd have a few choice words if my partner acted and said the things yours did. Story 4. When my husband and I decided to buy our current home, his brother, who's 26, was already living with my husband. As I was the one who initiated the purchase, I felt it wouldn't be fair to just throw his brother out. So, I made it clear that he was welcome to stay with us. Our house is pretty spacious, with 3 bedrooms on the main level. One is our personal bedroom, another we've turned into a combination computer office and game room, which I absolutely need because I work from home, and the third is the brother's bedroom. Things were ticking along pretty smoothly until I got some big news. I'm pregnant. Naturally, this meant we had to start thinking about rearranging our living spaces to make room for the baby. The logical step seemed to be asking his brother to move into the basement. We thought this was a fair request, especially since the basement room is actually twice the size of his current room. We even promised to make it cozy for him, offering to lay down new carpeting and let him choose his favorite colors for the walls. However, his brother threw us for a loop by refusing to move. His main concern? His cats wouldn't feel comfortable in the basement. This might sound a bit trivial, but to him it was a serious issue. Meanwhile, I'm trying to juggle my work-from-home setup with the upcoming needs of our baby. I need a quiet and dedicated space to work, and it makes sense to transform his current room into the nursery. It's conveniently located and the right size. I tried explaining to him that once the baby arrives, there's going to be plenty of noise. We're talking about a lot of crying and screaming, which might make his current setup less than ideal for him too. Despite this, he doesn't seem bothered by the prospect, and has even mentioned wanting to repaint his bedroom to make it feel more his own. As if that wasn't frustrating enough, my husband isn't exactly on my side here. He thinks his brother should stay where he feels most comfortable, which is upstairs. Now they're suggesting we change our office into the nursery instead, and move our entire office setup into our already cramped bedroom. This solution is far from ideal for me. My work requires concentration and space, and squeezing office desks into our bedroom would disrupt our living space and my productivity. I'm pretty stressed about this whole setup. The brother does contribute a little financially, paying a small amount in rent, although he tends to forget to pay it most months. We've never really pressed him on this because we want to support him. He's family after all. Plus, we've been quite accommodating, letting him use the basement to foster kittens without charging him extra for utilities. Before we even got pregnant, my husband had a chat with his brother about moving to the basement to make space for our growing family, and he seemed okay with it at the time. But now, when we actually need him to make the move, he's digging his heels in. All of this has left me feeling incredibly frustrated and a bit like I'm being ganged up on in my own home. At times, it feels like my husband and his brother are prioritizing the brother's comfort over our family's pressing needs. I've even thought about laying down the law, telling them if we can't sort this out, they might need to consider other living arrangements. It's hard because while I don't want to cause a rift, I also feel strongly that as someone who's about to bring a new life into the world, my needs and comfort should take priority right now. Am I being unreasonable? I just want a home environment that supports both my work and our new family member. Right now, I'm not sure how to balance everyone's needs and keep the peace. What would you do in my situation? Now for the top comments, not the a-hole. You've got to be kidding me. The adult brother and his cats need to move to the basement. There is no discussion or compromise that is needed. He can move to the basement or he can move out. I have no idea why your husband would agree to everyone accommodating the adult brother over the comfort of everyone else in the home, and if the brother really thinks it would be better to be upstairs with an infant. I don't think he understands what that entails. I'm very confused on why a lot of people want the pregnant woman, mother of an infant, to walk up and down stairs instead of telling a grown man to move to the basement. The assumption is that the basement is underground with a dirt floor or something, when we don't know that is the case. Also, are we talking about a baby? What adult is going to want to live and sleep next to a baby who is going to spend most of the first months crying? Let the man stay there because the cat's going to run to the basement without him. The first night that child screams, not the a-hole. Your house. You work from home. You need your office. You were nice enough to let him live with you. That doesn't mean he gets to make actual decisions there. Your husband is a jerk. The choice here should be either move to the basement or find a new place to live. It's not that. It should be your feelings first. It's the fact that it's your house. Story 5. I, 27 female, have a friend called Beth. Beth has a boyfriend, Michael, and they've been together about 9 months. I now live abroad, but I was spending December in my home city to see friends' family, since Beth got together with Michael. Michael has become quite a good friend to me also. When I visited them at the beginning of December, Michael was talking about the company he'd recently joined and how it was kind of an old boys club type place, family money, nepotism, baby work hard, play harder city types, and he was having quite a hard time bonding with his team, especially his boss. He talked about the upcoming Christmas party and then said his team tended to tease him about not understanding their conversations. He mentioned the popular holiday destination a lot of the team had been to over the summer where I've holidayed before, and I was explaining some things he said had come up in the conversation. He suddenly suggested that I come to his Christmas party with him and help him bridge the gap with his colleagues. Beth immediately agreed. Here's the thing. I asked Beth 4 times during that dinner if she was okay with this, and she said yes. I asked her 3 times over the phone the day after when she was alone, and she said she was fine with it and that I was saving her from a stressful evening and doing something nice for Michael. I went to the party and actually it was a nice evening. Michael and I were not physical at all, obviously, but we are friends, so it was fun to hang out. And his team are exactly what you'd expect. A little out of touch with immature, but good fun for an evening. Michael thanked me profusely, even sent me flowers, saying how much he appreciated it. I really thought I'd done a good thing. Ever since Beth has been ghosting me, I sent her several texts to meet up while I was in town, and she ignored my calls and messages. I figured I'd speak to her about it in the new year. But yesterday, when I sent her a Merry Christmas text, she replied with a wall of texts saying I had a nerve to try to be her friend after I completely destroyed her self-esteem and how she can't believe I actually went to the party. I pointed out that I had asked her multiple times if it was okay, and she said yes. But her point is, I should have just known that it would make her feel bad that Michael wanted to use me to impress people. I'll admit I suspected it did make her feel bad. But when she was pushing me to do it anyway, I presumed she'd put her own feelings aside. My fiancé says it's not my fault, and that Beth should have been honest instead of expecting me to read her mind. But a couple of my friends say I should probably just have said no in solidarity. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You asked multiple times. She had plenty of time to say she was uncomfortable, and this made her feel self-conscious. Her boyfriend is the a-hole for putting his career advancement because at the end of the day, that was what this was really about. Not bonding before his partner, your friend, is the a-hole for not expressing her feelings like an adult. At worst, you are naive, bordering on ignorant for believing your friend was actually okay with it. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She literally lied to you 7 times and then had the audacity to expect you to read her mind if she really didn't want you to go. She should have been upfront in the beginning. Everyone sucks here. She should have been honest about her feelings, but he never should have suggested it. And you shouldn't have accepted if you really did think it might hurt her feelings. You're not Serrano, and him not knowing about a holiday spot. Was it going to kill his career? What happens when the next thing they know about that, he doesn't? Will you keep playing fake girlfriend at the expense of his real one for the rest of his time there? And the flowers were insane.